In Virginia, Arthur and Norma Lewis are woken up at 5:45 a.m. by the doorbell. Norma goes downstairs and looks through the peephole, seeing a black car drive off. Upon opening the door, she sees a package on her doorstep. Inside, she and her husband find a wooden box with a button protected by a glass dome, locked with a key, and a note reading, "Mr. Stewart will come at 5 p.m. Norma and Arthur then enjoy a nice breakfast with their son, Walter. Arthur goes to work at NASA, where he works in optics and helped in designing the camera on the Viking Mars probe. He finds from one of his bosses, Norm Cahill, that he has been rejected from the astronaut program due to the fact that he failed the psychological exam. Norma goes to her job as a teacher at an elite private school teaching literature, where they are discussing Sartre's vision of hell. One of her students, Charles, remarks on her limp, after which she shows her class her disfigured right foot, missing 4 toes. After class, Norma is informed by her boss that she will no longer be getting a discount for tuition and won't be able to pay for school for her son. Later that day, Norma returns home and Arlington Stewart appears at their door. Half of his face is missing. Norma looks at the clock and realizes it is 5 p.m. Stewart says that if she or her husband pushes the button, someone in the world that they do not know will die, and they will receive $1 million. Stewart hands Norma a $100 bill from the briefcase of money and says she gets to keep it if the button is pushed or not. Stewart leaves and tells her she has 24 hours. Arthur returns, and Norma tells him what has happened. After much discussion about whether or not they should press the button and some tinkering with the box where Arthur finds nothing inside it, Norma suddenly jerks forward and hits it. The button rises slightly. Stewart returns and presents Norma and Arthur with the million, without asking whether they press the button or not. He informs them that they will not know who will receive the offer next, and implies that Arthur, Norma, or their son will be the ones to die. Arthur storms after Stewart and attempts to return the million, but Stewart drives off. Arthur gets his license plate number. A 911 call is shown where someone has been shot. The police enter the house and find a woman shot through the heart and a little girl locked in the bathroom upstairs. Arthur and Norma then attend a wedding rehearsal dinner of Norma's sister, where Arthur is instructed to select a present from a table. A waiter, who happens to be Charles, the student from Norma's class, holds up 2 fingers to Arthur. Arthur then picks a box much like the one left on their doorstep, with the button in it. This time, there is a photograph of Stewart inside. Norma's sister tells Arthur that Charles was the one who made fun of his wife's foot. Arthur meets and asks Norma's dad, Dick Burns, who is a police officer, to run the license plate number of Stewart's car. Norma receives a phone call. She is informed by a waiter whose nose begins to bleed as he's leading her to the phone. It's Stewart, who scolds her for allowing her husband to make contact with the police, as Stewart somehow knows Arthur has spoken to Norma's father. Arthur angrily approaches Charles and yells at him for making fun of Norma. He then storms out of the party, with Norma following him. As they start their car, they see "No Exit," the title of the Sartre play they went to see earlier, written into the frost on their windshield. Charles holds up the 2 fingers at them again. When they get home, Arthur takes their babysitter, Dana, home. Dana had earlier gone down into the basement with their son, Walter, to see Arthur's Mars collection. She notices the picture of everyone who worked on the development of the camera. As they are driving, Dana acts strangely, asking Arthur strange questions such as, "What's pushing your buttons?" and comments like, "Look into the light." Her nose begins to bleed and she passes out. Arthur attempts to wake her up and finds her driver's license, which shows her name is not Dana, but Sarah Matthews, and she's from Boston. He puts it away in his pocket. He reaches the motel where Dana has been staying, and she wakes up with a start. She tells Arthur it's not safe for him there, and to look in the mirror because that's the only place with the answer. She then hurries away. In the motel, every door she passes opens and a startled-looking person stares her down. She reaches her room, where she has a large map and pictures of Arthur, Norma, and Walter. The guests then go to the motel pool to stare at the water. Arthur returns to Norma and tells her Dana has lied about her name and the place she's from. While looking at Stewart's picture, Arthur realizes he's seen him before and rushes to look at a poster of the first Viking trip to Mars. Stewart is there as one of the workers of the mission. The next day, Stewart calls Norma to warn her about possible consequences again. Norma asks him to meet in person, and when Stewart tells her he's in her backyard, Norma notices a random man outside, staring at her with his mouth open. Stewart hangs up on her at his hidden office behind NASA's wind tunnels. One of the NSA employees goes to see the NASA bosses to demand even more things, this time asking for the hangar and the lunar lander for activities. He isn't allowed to explain, but that will involve NASA employees. Cahill isn't happy with this, but he has no choice but to accept. At a supermarket, Norma is approached by a panicked woman who tells her to look up a certain call number in the library and not to trust her husband, before passing out with a bloody nose. Arthur visits Dick at the police station to see if he has any news about the license plate, which turns out belongs to an NSA car. Arthur finds out that Stewart's license plate is registered to the NSA. He asks Dick if he can go with him to see the house where the shooting mentioned earlier took place. Once there, he finds pictures of Stewart and a picture of a human resources book and a library call number. Arthur learns that the woman was shot at 4:45 p.m., the same time Norma pushed the button. Norma and Arthur both visit the library separately. Norma avoids Arthur, as instructed by the woman in the supermarket. Norma finds a film reel, which shows Arlington prior to his disfigurement. Arthur is followed by a crowd of startled-looking people. He finds himself in a large hall filled with more scared-looking people. He approaches a woman he learns is Stewart's wife, and she tells him to follow her. He is presented with 3 gateways made of hovering water. 2 gateways lead to eternal damnation, while 1 to salvation. Remembering Charles, who held up 2 fingers, Arthur picks Gate 2. He enters the water and finds himself whirling through whiteness. Norma is also led by 2 hollow-looking women to Stewart. He asks her how she felt when she saw his disfigurement. She says that she felt bad for herself because of her foot, and seeing someone with a face disfigurement made her realize she would never feel sorry for herself ever again. Many years ago, her brother had dropped a barbell on her foot, and when she went to the doctor, he put it in an X-ray machine and forgot about her, destroying the tissue in 4 of her toes. Stewart informs Norma that he was struck by lightning and can now communicate with those who control the lightning. Norma begins to cry, and Stewart takes her hand. Norma is suddenly lying on her bed, with Arthur suspended above her in the same hovering water he stepped into earlier. Norma moves away just before Arthur falls out of the water. The water falls too, going all the way down their stairs. When cleaning up, Walter demands to know what is going on. Norma and Arthur do not answer him. Meanwhile, Cahill secretly meets with the NSA employee who tells him Stewart got hit by lightning 5 months ago, and the reason why NASA never heard of him again is that he's something else now. He died after the accident, but several hours after he was taken to the morgue and locked in a freezer, a nurse heard him laugh, so he was transferred to a high-security military hospital. Since then, he has been demonstrating some extraordinary capabilities, like healing faster and halting cellular deterioration. Stewart hears the whole conversation while they're unaware. Later, when asked by the NSA employee why he chose a box, he explains that homes, cars, and TVs are boxes, and they all erode the soul and the body, which is also a box that when it dies is put in yet another box. Stewart's tests can be passed by not pressing the button, and these tests will be what will help his employers decide the fate of humanity. Nearby, all employees like Dana are being guided into a white light to prepare for another test in Massachusetts. Later at night, the Lewis family goes to Norma's sister's wedding, and while dancing, Arthur describes the light to Norma as a warm embrace, not here or there, but something in between, with no despair in the human heart. They're being followed by Stewart's men, but when Arthur starts feeling sick and goes outside, he is taken away by a gun-toting former employee of NASA. He is the same man who shot his wife, as earlier seen in the 911 call. The man gets him in a truck. Walter and Norma, noticing he's missing, try to go after him, but a group of men arrive and kidnap them both. They've taken Arthur's son to the motel, and he's being lowered into the pool, which is another gateway. In the truck, the man reveals to Arthur that he had to choose between his wife or his daughter. He asks if it was him or Norma that pushed the button, and he replies that his wife also pushed the button. He shows Arthur the book seen earlier in the picture, and the water portals or triptychs. The book is some sort of manual. They are then stopped by a man in a Santa Claus uniform, ringing a bell. As the 2 men are trying to figure out what is going on, they are hit by a large truck. When the police arrive, however, they only find the man's body inside the truck. Arthur suddenly finds himself leaving a NASA hangar, and waiting there for him is Cahill, who tells him whatever he does next will have greater ramifications than he can possibly imagine. Arthur and Norma are taken back to their home, where Stewart is waiting for them with a final test. He's locked Walter in the bathroom after he's been stricken blind and deaf, and now his parents must choose between 2 options: living the rest of their lives enjoying their money and dealing with a disabled son, or Arthur can kill Norma, which will give Walter his senses back, and the money will be put into an account he can access when he turns 18. Furious, Arthur grabs the gun Stewart has given them for the test and points it at his head, but Stewart explains it's pointless. Killing him will only put Arthur in prison under a story nobody will buy, and someone else will be sent to replace him. After Stewart leaves, the 2 of them run upstairs and try to get Walter out, but cannot, because he can't hear them pounding on the door. They decide that they must make a choice, and Norma leads Arthur downstairs. Another couple is sitting at a table with a box unit, staring at it with contempt, wondering whether they should push it. Norma decides that she can't see Walter like this, so she asks Arthur to shoot her. After kissing passionately, Arthur pulls the trigger, and Norma dies at the same time the other couple in the neighborhood push the button on the box. Arthur returns to the bathroom door to talk to his son, but he only gets to hear him call out for him before the cops arrive and take him away. Instead of being sent away in a police car, however, he's put inside the NSA's black car, and Cahill tells Arthur not to worry because he'll take good care of Walter, who is now looking at him through the window with his recovered senses. Meanwhile, Stewards arrives at the other couple's house and hands them the $1 million before retrieving the box. The movie ends when Steward comes out of the house, implying that the process will continue to go on and on. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.